childhood malnutrition is happening all around us. We don't see it. We may not actually recognize it when we see it. It's happening in every country. It's happening globally. And it's actually hit record highs in the last 2 years. And for something that has such a massive impact on all of us in this world, we need to pull it forward. We need to talk about it, and we need to actually solve it. And I believe that I have worked the last 10 years not only to come up with the innovative technology and solution to make the foods that can end world hunger, but I truly feel passionate and confident that this problem will only go away if we have the 5 things I'm going to talk about in this video, because we have never truly actually had all 5 of these things happening at the same time, which is why the problem only gets worse. And before we start, who am I and why am I talking about malnutrition? My name is Sharon. I am an attorney turned food technology startup founder. But most importantly, I'm a mom to my beautiful son, Caleb, who is 4 years old now. And I was raised by a single disabled mother of 6. When she was pregnant with me, she was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, an autoimmune disease. And I watched her health deteriorate throughout my childhood. And when she was raising us and when she was pregnant with me, we relied heavily on food banks and donated food and the school lunch programs because we were experiencing food insecurity. My mom is an absolute, I don't even know how to categorize her, because she's just an incredible woman who did her absolute best to raise her 6 babies like any mother would. But what she didn't have is the education and the access to real nutrition to properly feed her babies. And growing up, I realized we were not alone in this, that this problem is happening across our country. It's happening across the world. And no one is talking about the science. No one is talking about the actual data that we now have had for decades. And it wasn't until I was in law school where I realized our entire food system is broken. And it's been broken for almost 100 years, essentially. And so I'm passionate about this because I don't want my son to grow up in a world where children are starving and where there's families who are not able to give their children the proper nutrition that they need to develop and grow properly. And so over the last 10 years, as I've been just absolutely dedicating my life to diving so deep into the research, working with incredible experts, we have an opportunity to actually fix the system, be a part of what actually is going to change our food system. And that is a responsibility I do not take lightly. And I'm really honored, honestly, to get to do this every day. And I know this is very heavy and no one wants to talk about malnutrition and starvation, and we actually don't even know what that is, but I am very hopeful and I'm very optimistic that we can end it, and that there will be a time when any parent that's watching right now, where your babies and your grandbabies will live in a world where every child has access to the nutrition, the proper nutrition that their growing bodies need. And regardless of economic status, every pregnant mother and her babies will have the most proper, ideal nutrition that is proven by science, and she knows where to go and get it. And so one of the things that I have been really passionate about is not only talking about how the food system is broken, the ultra-processed food world that we live in, but understanding that these ultra-processed foods that now make up about 70 to 75% of our calories, we live in a world where we have a calorie surplus, but a nutrient deficiency. And that's really hard to conceive and to actually understand what's really happening in our bodies when you sit and you see everybody having enough calories, having enough food in their pantries. And food banks and school systems have food there, but it's not nutritious food that is actually giving our families what they need. And so inside, we are starving. It's called silent malnutrition. So since 1970 to today, we've solved for calories. We've solved for distribution points, for food banks and all of these locations in order to get food and get it out to people. But we haven't solved for nutrition. We have actually created new problems, and we still haven't even solved malnutrition. So not only haven't solved the problem of starvation, even though billions of dollars have been put towards it, we've created so many, at least 3 new problems in the process, where now we are more malnourished and overfed than ever in human history. And we have highest amount of chronic diseases in every stage of life, but unfortunately the highest rates within our children. And so now let's talk about the solution. So I have my whiteboard. These 5 things, again, we've never had them all at the same time. And I believe that if we build a system that has these 5 things happening, this will create and reverse the ultra-processed food system that we have not consciously built, because none of us would have chosen to build and live in this Frankenstein food world that is just laden with chemicals and things that are harmful for our bodies. But we now get to become an active participant in the food system that we are about to create, which I'm very excited about. And I feel like it's my obligation as a mom to help every other mom feel empowered, that they know exactly what their babies need to grow and develop properly. They feel supported. They know where to go and get this food. And this isn't something that just goes untalked about anymore. So the 5 things that we need to truly end childhood, and not only childhood malnutrition, but starvation globally if we get this right. So the first thing is scale. Second thing is volume. Third, distribution. Fourth, nutrition. And fifth, collective involvement. So let me explain what these 5 things mean. First, scale. We need an infrastructure that can actually produce, so can actually grow, manufacture, and turn the products and the food into what we actually need. Right now, most people don't realize that most food that you see at your grocery store is not only ultra-processed, but it's co-manufactured. It's made by not the brand that you see on the label. It's made by a larger company who makes the food, and they make it all the same way with the same exact ingredients, just doing ingredient swapping. So we need new infrastructure. The high heat ultra processing methods that we have been doing for the last 50 plus years is only making food worse for us. So we need a new infrastructure that actually is backed by science, and the technology proves that we can make shelf stable products that are so nutrient dense that we don't have to compromise between ultra processing and convenience anymore. And that's scale, that's infrastructure. And we need volume. We need enough food. We need to actually be able to use this technology to produce enough food on a daily basis that then gets into the third point, which is distribution, that then can go to the distribution points that is needed. Now, this is not only retail stores, this is food banks, this is school systems. We need, and this is hospitals and children's hospitals, and we need this distribution to be able to be the points where people know exactly where they can go to get the proper nutrition their family needs. Now, the good thing is the distribution, we have that. We actually have, in some senses, we do have volume and we do have distribution. But the 2 things that we have truly never had, in addition to the first 3, is nutrition. We need products that are so nutrient dense that can actually give our bodies and our children's bodies the required nutrients that their growing bodies need every single day. So that way, nutrient deficiencies become a thing of the past. And we need that nutrition to be backed by science, and we need it to be actually proven. We need to be able to study and know exactly how much nutrition are in these foods that we are giving to families. And then the 5th thing, collective involvement. I'm really excited about this piece. This piece is so important to what actually allows malnutrition to get solved. And by collective involvement, What I am referring to is we need not just a few handful of nonprofit organizations asking for donations and trying to buy ultra-processed foods and get it out to food banks, or just a handful of governments trying to tackle it alone as something they put on the back burner. We need millions and millions of people that are actively involved and actively participating to end malnutrition. And I believe that we have created a system, and we're working right now to create a system that's not via donations. We don't want pity. We don't want people to feel pity when they're looking for nutrition for their families. That was one of the things I was always so proud of my mom, because when she would go to food banks and we would go to the government programs and get food every day, there was no pity. She was fighting for her baby. She was doing the natural instinct of a mother, is to go and get what her children need. And what we need is to be able to now have millions of people that they don't have to do anything. You don't have to donate extra money. You simply buy the most nutrient-dense foods for your families, the best thing you can buy for your families. And in doing so, automatically, other children and families are fed who are in need. And that requires a whole new system, a whole new way of building a company, a food company that is built to end a problem as big as nutrition or malnutrition. And if you do this the right way, what you can have is you can have a mom over here who has the ability and the means to buy her children incredible products that ensure her baby's growing and developing properly. And she just gets to feel good knowing not only she's feeding her baby, but she's automatically helping another child, another family that's in need. And there isn't some dramatic increase in price, nothing like that. It's just built into the system because the system and the infrastructure was designed to do the right thing. And so I'll go a little bit deeper, I'll explain a little bit more, and I plan on making more videos that can flush this out in more detail, and I can nerd out with anybody who wants to come along this journey with me so we can actually explain how this works. But if we have all 5 of these things, we can 100% end not only childhood malnutrition, but world hunger. And the reason I'm focusing on childhood malnutrition is a few reasons. But the most important one is because the first 1,000 days of life, the moment a mom becomes pregnant to age 2, it's a very tight window. And those first 1,000 days is the most critical window of development for human health. What a mother eats when she's pregnant through a program called fetal programming, and what that baby eats up until age 2 are the building blocks, the only building blocks that that child has to build about over 80% of its brain, every organ in its body, its immune system, its gut health, its palate development. What a child eats in this window literally determines and programs its body to learn how to metabolize food for the remaining 80 years of that child's life. That's how powerful this window is. So when I talk about childhood malnutrition, I'm talking about focusing on this window of life. We need to support pregnant women and we need to support young children. Because if we do that, this is where I get excited. If we actually end childhood malnutrition, and we know that no human and no pregnant mom and no young baby and toddler goes a day starving or without proper nutrition, that child is going to grow up with a dramatically reduced likelihood of not only developing a chronic disease, but you're setting that child up for a life of success, a higher IQ. You are giving them the head start that I believe every child deserves. A right to go to school that day, getting emotional thinking about it, the ability to go to school that day and allow their brain to learn and absorb and focus instead of feeling like it's starving and it can't focus on what it needs to because its body is searching for nutrition and struggling to develop properly. So imagine that world. We end childhood malnutrition. We actually make an impact on these children's lives. That's the world I want my son to grow up in. That's the world that we are developing and growing at Food Nerd. And I know that when parents are buying products that they know is allowing this to actually happen, And you, just by purchasing products that you know are helping families, and you get to see the real impact, a company that's built on transparency and truth and fully tracking, you are involved in the whole process. Why would you not want to go along on that journey? Why would you not want to be able to choose the products that are ones that were built to make this world a better place? And that way, the problem gets solved. And so I am really excited about the impact it will have on children's lives. And I think it's really important to talk about a few things. I hate talking about the economic impact of feeding a child, but we have to, because some people will say, oh, this is going to be too expensive on the economy, but it's the opposite. For every $1 invested in the first 1,000 days, so every $1 of proper nutrition that goes into a child that is in the first 1,000 days of life, it produces a $16 ROI, a return on that investment for that child, its family, its community, and its nation. So not only is it the right thing to do, is to rebuild this food system, but it's the economically intelligent and smart thing to do. And so there's no reason why, if we implement these 5 steps together and we rethink and we rebuild the future of food together, that we can actually end childhood malnutrition. And so join me on this journey. I am working on this every day for the last 10 years, and I am going to continue to work on it until I know that it's truly solved. So thanks for watching, and please join this journey. And help me end childhood malnutrition, literally one child at a time here in the US. Thank you.